bugs of this opening sequence. The gunner has now been announced. It's going to be at the end of this month, unfortunately. I don't know why they have to make it an end of month thing rather than just put it out immediately, but to each their own. There might be some additional patches and things and changes that they will need to implement, I suppose, into the game prior to launch. It's going to be a pain in the butt waiting that long. Well, I feel like they've fixed a lot of this part, at least. The starting volume, though, they did not. I'll turn the volume up. I have it down specifically because of how loud you heard in the beginning. All of the sounds are way too high. It's like they have somebody who's half deaf. Sorry, not half deaf, half deaf. Doing their soundboarding, which is bad. Go to sound. That should be loud enough. Look at all of these people just sitting out here. They're all in their level 30s. Warrior. That... rated G. Level 33, so she, with that scepter, would be a mystic. Another warrior, an archer. Really cool looking archer at that. Let's see, you've got 2 weapons, you're a warrior. Another mystic. Brawler. Warrior. Archer. I seem to be the only two-handed individual here. She's level 50. A lolly person. Oh, she is one of me. She's a slayer. Just like me. And I like the name. Come on. Give me that essence of wind. I need it. Thank you. Look at all that essence of wind. I'm gonna make me XP. I'm now level 30. With 6 skills. Fury Strike, I'll get you. I have 7 points to spend somewhere. Combo attack. Increase skill damage. Yes, please. I have 3 points to spend now. Jesus, crit factor tripled. Skill damage, yes. But that's retaliate. Stunning strike, skill damage. New fury strike, skill damage. Casting. Recovers 4%. Wow. That's actually really nice. I'll probably get that. Knockdown strike. The overhead strike. Oh, so a lot of these get... Almost all of the skills are 4 points and above. Jeez. Except for that. So this is all about, like, fast action damage. This character's going to need attack speed bonuses. So this is much faster. And all the other attacks are faster. I'll also kill these while I'm here. It's time to murderize things. Oveloths. Oveliths. Weird name. Apparently I'm the tank. Oh, there's the tank. Jesus, 51,000 hit. Yeah, this dude does some damage. course, it's very unwieldy as a class. They do not last very long at all. Oh wait, no. Uh-oh. Alright. Need 5 more. That's right, woman. Got your butt kicked. Alright, I need 3 more of those Tithus relics. Two more. Okay. I don't know why they keep getting those when they're clearly labeled for me. Let's see if I get a +9. Nice. All ready to go for my next level. mess with me! Oh. Okay, does this... Nope. Won't enchant. Lovely. But it's kind of better than what I have, I guess. Well, maybe not. Let's see what we can get from these tokens. Hmm. I don't really need to increase their damage right now. I need to find the ones that give me health back. I mean, that's good too, but... Ooh. That's one of them, but there's another one. Where are you? So I'll have to hit this and then that. Okay. And now we know. Let's see if I can get... Let me go on here. Almost back. Just waiting for this thing to pop. There we go. Now I can do it. Alright. Jesus, 3 hits and it's down? The Slayer's a beast, oh my god. Looks like other people destroyed them. Oh, there's one. Kill this thing and then go to the next dungeon. What the hell? Okay, time to get rid of some of these quests then. See, that should not be a thing. It should allow you to complete these missions. It could be a glitch, though. You can still get the materials from it, I just can't get the daily quest done. Such a strange thing. But I guess I can just keep getting these essences of wind. Complete getting my experience with gathering. The scarabs are pretty good to sell. Just a FYI for those who play the game. If you want to make money, at least in Draculov server. I don't know if they're just as good on others. Of course you do. Really, man? There's no need to... Why? Really, dude? This is one reason why I don't like other brawler tanks. Like, he does what he's supposed to with these, but then, like, if someone's already killing shit, he'll grab them anyway and then pull them somewhere else for no reason at all. Let's see, what's over here? More creatures, okay. Really, dude? Can't wait to be done with this and not have to deal with him no more. Can you not be an idiot? Of course he moves again. makes life easy. Apparently that one was another one too. Get some good equip. Oh, they're already at the boss. Works for me. Of course, I got none of that equipment. No big deal, though. None of that's really like mandatory to have. No, I don't have enough inventory space. Okay. Let's go ahead and dismantle you. The reason I'm destroying these is because they don't sell for anything on the auction house at all. Well, I should just say they don't sell, period. Behind, extra crit, ranged monsters, attacking from behind. Good. Ah, here we go. Now I can get some gear. Get you. The gloves. Well, failed. If you're wondering why I keep enchanting these, it's because it actually benefits you in the long run. Especially if you're leveling up fast. Getting these up as high as you can increases, obviously, the amount of damage you take, and or reduces it, I should say. Makes your life a lot less frustrating. If you guys do decide to make a brawler, there's 3 things that you should know. Number 1, that charge ability that you saw in this guy's thing, only do that when you're gathering monsters to your group. If someone's already engaging monsters, run to that. Don't charge in, grab them, and then move them away. What you'll do is just delay the inevitable and possibly make people waste a skill and have to wait another 10 seconds in order to use it. And third, your L2 button is your best friend. It is your block, it is your finisher, it does a lot of really cool things that a lot of people really enjoy when they play the character. Well, I guess I'm gonna be having to deal with Spotty Tank for a while. Hopefully he figures out his shit. Really, dude?
The flat Earth, and then above that dome is water, and then said, or that is why the sky is blue. I know.
Are you watching that episode?
He doesn't know that, and he made a video.
Didn't you know that that's why the sky is blue?
I have no idea.
Well, it's because the Earth is covered with a dome, and there's water on the other side of the dome. That's why the sky is blue. That dome is called the firmament. This is scientific fact, supported by no evidence or common sense. You know, like all scientific fact.
There's only a few things that would be scientifically truthful on that, but I mean, it's really stretching.
There's nothing truthful scientifically about the statement.
No, what I mean by there is some things that would back up what he's trying to say, such as a dome being able to hold back a shitload of water. So that's scientifically truthful, but I mean, the fact that you think that
That's
space
irrelevant to the point.
I know, that's my point.
Now, it is true that there is
He's
a treaty among
stretching logic and reason to
plenty of
fit
nations
a
that
completely
basically
illogical
says that nobody,
Stretching it, he's
narrative.
fabricating it.
yeah, what it is, but they're like, they're saying
That works too.
Stretching it requires some to exist in the first place.
people that believe in the infinite plane flat Earth theory, not that there's a firmament, but that the ice wall that encapsulates
Infinite plane.
the Earth.
Yeah, people are idiots. Why flat earthers are still a thing is beyond me.
One time the moon gets a little too close and it's all over.
I mean, the shit was disproven in the 13th century, something around there? 13 to 15.
This shit was disproven when Columbus basically decided that it would be a good idea to sail around back of the world to hit the other side of the world.
Yeah,
And then
now,
he did it. He just ended up running into something he didn't expect there.
yeah. He wanted to see the edge of the Earth, and he got disproven because he did it.
I mean, that's true. NASA was around before dinosaurs. Yeah, it's well documented. Dinosaurs wrote about it. Yeah, we can. Remember that Robert This is the thing as well. They called him Santa Claus because he lived on the beach in Canada. That's funny. That's funny. That's funny. That's so funny. Thank you. Man, we are. This is it. Fucking A+ on. Where the fuck are you, dude? I look up, nothing. I look down, nothing. It's scary, man. I don't want to look. Can you imagine if I fell? It's one thing at a time. I don't trust myself. Good on you, man. Good on you for trusting what happened. Anything up here. Yeah, there's too many entities. I didn't think another thing. Wait a second. So you're saying I took my ass? No. No. I believe everything. Oh my God. Instantly. And if you have too many resources, on the end of it, it will drag the game for about half an hour. I'm assuming you know that
Just Cause 3 is in Super Sale. Interesting. Let me buy that shit and play it because
it's getting night time. I feel like by the time a storm does come, we can still know about the clouds.
the entire purpose of Just Cause is summed up with Just Cause Explosions.
Which would be like, it should be rather severe.
So it's a perfect Michael Bay game.
No, it's better than Michael Bay, because it actually makes sense.
Oh.
I think I'm kidding, but I'm serious. Apparently this update will download in 7 hours.
Oh, jeez.
Are you kidding me? It's only 14 gigabytes, it's not that big. And this thing's only downloading about a megabyte a second.
It is. In most video games, it is. It's not stationary. Like the sun is not stationary in video games. Right. Yeah. It's moving. So yeah, it's pretty bad. But you know what? I'm actually surprised. Well, most of the time. Well, yeah.
Although it is simultaneously downloading
Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense. But a game like
two
this,
things at once.
get out.
That would explain it.
Well, it's downloading two things at once, both of them slowly.
Pause one?
They both have to download, that's the fucking problem.
Well, then we don't get to play tonight.
So it seems, because I started this fucking installation at 2 AM and it still hasn't finished.
What game are you trying to install?
Next episode, if we do the
Battlefront 2.
Oh.
I could kick your ass in Armello. You know I can fucking make your life miserable in that. Now let's do that. Let me kick your ass in Armello.
I'm not streaming Armello.
Why not?
Cause?
What, you don't like Armello? Is there a problem with it?
No, I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just not in the mood to play it.
Huh. Not in the mood.
No.
And, you know, Friday the 13th is no longer getting any DLC.
Really?
They got dragged into that fucking bullshit lawsuit.
What lawsuit?
There's been some stupid fucking lawsuit. One of the writers, the original Friday the 13th, is suing things for reasons. That's why there haven't been any movies for a long time, is because of that lawsuit. And the game got dragged into it, so they can't release any movies. They basically canceled all the DLC that they were planning.
Don't you love it when people get greedy?
So don't expect any new DLC for that. At least no new characters, models.
Ah, he got
costumes.
killed again. Dumbass roller.
I'd say that's pretty, we can't get a good screenshot of this. But I'd say that if you watch this video, I kind of like the, oh my god. You know what? You know what you're going to do? You're going to jump off, oh no, it's really wrong with that. It would be cool if you would jump off, and then get to the bottom of the base and just destroy the first one. Watch the whole thing left. We could put a platform and then turn around. Dude, hang on.
Oh, I know what you can stream.
Holy crap.
You can stream me psychologically destroying you when we finish playing Level Up there.
I can't stream that.
It would be a stream of a stream.
You're incepting the stream.
Stream set. Well, it's not like she owns the game herself or will play it on her own.
Dude, look at our swing! We are swaying by meters!
You just don't want, you could stream it, you just don't want to because you don't want to be psychologically annihilated.
Yeah, pretty much.
Come on, you know you want to, it's funny.
Not right now, I don't know.
Come on, you know you want to, it's funny for me.
Good to you.
Everything's funny for me, that's what's important. This tank can fit 3 people, Japanese size.
So 5'4" and 112 pounds.
12 pounds. I'm in World War II era Japanese size, so more like 5 foot.
Did you see Uberville's video on like the Fortnite videos. At the beginning, he holds up his dog, and he does an accent for a dog, and it sounds just like fucking Timmy. Not even joking, man. He goes, yeah, here's Timmy. Yeah. And he sounds just like that, and it's hilarious, yeah. Good enough? Ah! We are
Seriously?
way off. So we gotta go. Well, that's the thing, because it's not in a cardinal direction. Oh my god, it's just good. Oh, look at that down there. It's so
It's supposed to be round robin, but bullshit. It's not.
Round robin. You don't get a turn.
Dang it, dude. I thought we had found it, because it's legitimately in here.
Pretty much.
Oh, yeah, so it goes a little bit. No, that's still the same distance. No, we were 1,100. And now we're positive. And why are they paying? You paying? I thought I was selecting them by accident or something. You completely fooled me. What? How did you? Wait, why did it put? Oh, right. I found 3 of them first. Well, they can't. Do they have their wrong out? Yeah. There's 6. Come on.
Japanese side.
Come on. They gotta place the battery and everything back. God, it is so much effort. Oh, you put it the wrong way. We're getting closer. Now it's getting a little bit closer to north, so if we keep going
What
in
is
this direction,
that?
it'll eventually be
Gone.
this entire thing on it. Yeah, man, I'm trying to
T-34. Panther GE. It ticks all the boxes regards mission protection, although fire Here it is, the terrible question that has plagued World War II message boards for years and probably for years to come. Unfortunately, due to a slight setback in the videos going to release today, we're going to answer this question. What was the best tank of the war? Now, there are a few layers to this question, but the first few that people always usually flock to are statistics on paper. Gun penetration, armor thickness, things like that. And because of that, a lot of people put the Panther on the pedestal for the best tank of the war. And don't get me wrong, it is a very impressive tank. Its long 75mm gun was extremely deadly at very long ranges, and it had really good armor that's pretty tough to get around. In fact, all the third-generation German tanks pretty much had these awesome features: a good gun and good armor. Once you start looking at them from a second point of view, say a production standpoint, they start to not look so good, because the Germans couldn't produce that many of their tanks because they were so complicated and because of German production methods. If looking from the production point of view, you could look at tanks like T-34 or the Sherman. The T-34
It
was
wasn't due to the difficulty of the build. It was due to the fact that the constant carpet bombing of their railways prevented most of the equipment to be sent to the
Well,
factory.
it still took way longer to build a Panther than it did a Sherman.
Yeah, it also took way longer to kill it.
Not really. By the end of the war, Panthers weren't really that big of a deal. Shermans were just as dangerous as them.
It was actually the reason, the Panther was the reason why the end of the war took longer than expected.
Yeah, but there weren't that many of them, partially because, yeah, their infrastructure kept getting bombed, but it took a long time for them to be built. They were very complex, they were hard to repair, so they couldn't repair them in the field, so they tended to lose them much more easily, and they didn't have much fuel to go around either.
Yeah, like I said, the gas thing was the problem. If they had just stopped doing that,
The fuel
and
was the
just
biggest.
mass-produced.
The fuel was their biggest problem.
If they could have mass-produced a shitload of their Panther 4s, things would have been much easier for them to defeat the Americans. At the
No,
very
because
least.
they would have just run out of fuel. The biggest problem is fuel. Doesn't matter how fucking awesome the tank is when you have no fuel to run it. The simple reality is it doesn't matter how many of the damn things they needed to make, because even as awesome as the Panther is, it only takes one T-34 to take out a Panther. It only takes one Sherman to take out a Panther if you drive it suicidally.
Drive suicidally.
Yeah, you rammed the enemy tank. Guess what? You just disabled it. It's not going anywhere. It's as good as dead.
That's true.
It doesn't matter how fucking awesome it is when it has another 30-ton piece of steel drive into it at 40 miles an hour. It's not going to fucking go anywhere. Because all you have to do is hit it from the side, hit it at a corner. You'll damage the tread, which means it's not going anywhere. And it's not hard for a tank that's much faster than the Panther to catch up to it. Which the China and the T-34 were much faster. And they tended to outnumber them. Even if they had equivalent numbers of Panthers, the simple reality is that they would have simply been outproduced, which was the problem.
Oh, I can. I can put it down in a second. Bam. But no, there's no such thing.
But
in fact, it's been really nice to see the Sherman's reputation revamped by historians in recent years after the tarnishing it took from the book that shall not be named. Even this tank did have a shortfall. Its small wheel bogey suspension would not allow it to have the same cross-country obstacle-clearing potential as, say, T-34 or Panther with their large road wall design, and its performance was somewhat lackluster at times at the end of the war against bigger German tanks. So even it, I would say, isn't the best tank of the war because it also falls prey to some of these problems. But then what about Japanese tanks? I know you gotta be thinking, if I'm mentioning Japanese tanks in a World War II best tank competition, you gotta be thinking, fucking retard. But Japanese tanks in the 30s against the Chinese force with little to no tanks did a very good job of supporting the and the mega the exact thing they were supposed to be doing. So later on, when they run into American tanks, they will do this. Quite often, because they were outdated at that point, the Sherman was so much better. But also talking about Japanese tanks in this way kind of ices the entire war. Japan was going to beat the United States with its Navy because they were a naval power and because they were fighting in the South Pacific, creating larger tanks to fight on small islands in the South Pacific in battles that probably would have been sorted out by the infantry anyways. It wasn't going to help the large Japanese strategic plan of defeating the U.S. Navy, which is what they needed to do for the war they found themselves in. So I guess what I'm building to here, looking at design, tactics, and grand strategy, is there was no best tank of the war, and every country was building tanks to fill its needs. Was the Panther maybe the best tank for the German army? Yeah, I think so. It really kept up with the tank arms race they had going with the Soviet Union. But would it be the best tank for the United States? No, it broke down a lot. It's way too heavy and couldn't be shipped to all the theaters, and it couldn't be made in the numbers that the U.S. Army needed. Would the M4 have been the best tank for, say, the Japanese? I don't think so. They needed small infantry support tanks that could be taken to very specific islands very quickly. And sometimes even at places like Iwo Jima and Tarawa, the Japanese tanks would sort of outperform the American tanks in maneuverability because the American tanks would get bogged down in the sand due to their weight, and the light Japanese tanks could move freely. So you can make the argument that although the Ha-Go was not a very good tank all around, it was probably the best tank for the Japanese forces at the time. You can say it's the same about the T-34. I've already made a video on this, but the T-34 was made cheaply and very quickly. So yeah, it broke down, and yeah, a lot of them got destroyed, but it was made with the idea of an attritional war in mind. So that's exactly what suited the Soviets. Even Italian tanks, for as much grief as they get, were designed by the Italians with their needs in mind. They thought they were going to be fighting in the mountains. I mean, the first place they attack is Greece, so they make small infantry support tanks that can maneuver in the mountains and not break down there. Now, when these tanks are used in the desert in North Africa, of course they do poorly, because that's not what they were designed for. This leads in part to their bad reputation.
You could always come and play Tera
Ps4 would probably be M4 Sherman, just due to the fact that it was used everywhere, from the steppes of Russia to the jungles of Southeast Asia. It did its job, and it did it well. But I still think this question can't be singularly answered with one tank. It's way too big of a question, and there's too many variables, and I don't think it has an answer. But I know what you're thinking. You clicked on this video for a clickbaity title, and you really wanted my impression of what the greatest tank of the war is. So, if I had to pick one, it would be the Bob 7 tank. This ingenious design would have caused destruction on the battlefield in ways that we can't even fathom. If only the New Zealanders had had the balls to put it into service.
You should instead build a smaller app and build like a pixelated cell phone, and then use that cell phone to call
best tank of World War II, Bob Simple tank.
Oh, we went too far.
Wait, what?
Hi, my name's Johnny, and today we're going to talk about the Ferdinand Tank Destroyer. A very awesome and effective vehicle. No, it's actually a piece of garbage. The story of this vehicle begins in the late 30s, early 40s, when the German army decides that they need a heavier break for their tank for its forces. The German army had recently been noticing the shortcomings in its tanks. First, it invaded France and had trouble with heavier tanks such as the Tera Ps4, especially once they invaded Russia into the T-34 and KV-1. And the main objective of this new tank was to mount the 88mm L56 high-velocity gun, which was the most effective tank killer that the Germans had at the time. Both the Henschel and Porsche companies were contracted to make prototypes, and the best one would win and get the contract. It is from the Porsche prototype that the Ferdinand tank destroyer comes from. Oh man, it is quite the story. Fucking thing sucks! Now, Ferdinand Porsche was nothing new to the military contract world. He'd been making weapons for the German army essentially since before. And he was always fairly ambitious and trying to break new ground with his projects. And he very much kept to this theme with his Tiger bid. Instead of using a single engine design that would drive the transmission that powered the drive sprockets, Porsche decided to think outside of the box and use a petrol electric generator. Now the way this works is you essentially have two gasoline or diesel engines power two electric generators that then provide power to the drive sprockets of the rear vehicle, which then propel. Petrol-electric drive was nothing new at this point. It had been used on things like buses, but it had never been used on a very heavy armored fighting vehicle. This became evident as soon as Porsche started putting his prototype together. He had mountains of problems getting the thing just to work. One of the biggest issues he had was to create both engines and both generators at the size that the Tiger needed to be. It had significant room for cooling. Oftentimes the engines overheated malfunction or just flames. There was also the issue that the vehicle was just too heavy and woefully underpowered for what it needed to do, also causing catastrophic breakdowns and engine fires. And although some of these flaws were worked out before the submission, Porsche's prototype failed to cover being instituted in submission. I mean, it was so bad that the engine failed and caught fire before it could start the trial. And actually, after much digging, I was able to find some colorized footage of that exact event.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Now, after this large failure, the German army did the sensible thing and picked the engine version that eventually became the Tiger tank. And this would be the end of the Porsche Tiger. This whole disaster would be. Except there was one problem. About 9 years. Porsche was so confident in his design that he had already begun producing hulls for his tank that didn't work. And once the Porsche design was turned down, Germany realized that they had just spent all this money, metal, and material creating all these hulls that would never be used. So they had to use them for something. I personally think at that point you just take the boss, melt them down, turn them into some stews or something useful, but this is what they went with, and it's really dumb. It was decided that these rejected Tiger prototype hulls would be named to a tank destroyer that would be able to mount the 88mm L70 and eventually seen on the Tiger 2. To do this, a large superstructure for the gun was made that would be bolted onto the back of the hull to make room for the additional
I really do
motor
feel
and
like
large
if they
gun
didn't
that was
use the electrical
because of that, they had to take the
engines, the actual
If they, well, yeah,
thing
that's
might
the
have
problem. That's exactly the problem with it, is that the engines were not good. Well, rather, they weren't suited for the task, so
Yeah.
they didn't work. And they were so stubborn about it that they didn't. Just listen, this is the dumbest tank destroyer in history.
But not the dumbest tank in history. That one goes
No,
to the
tank
Bradley fighting
destroyer.
vehicle.
It's not a tank either.
It actually is a tank that they changed and converted into an AFV. It originally
It's an
started
infantry fighting vehicle. It's not really a tank, though.
again. Its original development cycle started off as a troop transport tank.
The fact that it's a troop transport already disqualifies it as a tank, though. It's armored personnel carrier.
Then they had to reformat it to give it. I forget what they did specifically. They gave it a turret to start off with so it could actually defend itself from tanks. Or, lightly armored vehicles. And
Yeah,
then
it's
they wanted
not
to
a
make it
tank
aquatic. and then they wanted to make it a troop transport again. So they then decided, you know, well, whatever, let's expand the cargo bay, made it a little bit larger, and then they just went, okay, well, now that it has a turret, it can scout, but it's not very fast. So we're gonna need to give it something that it can defend itself against actual tanks with. So side-mounted turret or side-mounted of the turret is 2 tow missile launchers.
Yeah, which do their job fairly well.
Except the fact that it isn't a good troop transport. It's not a good scout tank. It's terrible at anti-tank warfare. And it can't float in water. It's too heavy.
Its
Everything that it was
an infantry support vehicle.
No, its purpose was
It's
all
not...
of the things that I listed above that they tried to
That's
remake
what they were
it.
trying. That's what they were trying to build it to, but when they realized that they couldn't do it, they switched its role.
After 20 years.
Yeah.
The Bradley fighting vehicle originated in 1950, just after World War II. So it was like 1947, 1949-ish, when it was first imagined as a troop transport. $29 billion later, they finally made it into something that's somewhat workable.
Yeah, but they never fielded it in any numbers until they actually had something workable.
Well, think of it
Otherwise,
this
we
way.
would have had them in Vietnam.
Over the time frame of its development, $29 billion in today's money was over $3 trillion.
Yeah, you know
By
the U.S. has
comparison.
done this numerous times,
No.
right?
The
Should
Bradley
we talk about
fighting
the
vehicle
Pershing?
The Bradley fighting vehicle to date is the most expensive weapons project ever created.
No, I let go of everything.
And when you add in cumulative cost,
He should be here. Yeah. With the sticks. Wow. Wow, man. Who we get?
but it still ultimately developed an effective infantry support vehicle, which was ultimately what it was intended to be, and
Is
it
it
does its role
effective?
well.
I'm not sure.
It's an infantry fighting vehicle. It's a support vehicle for infantry. It's designed to get them in, provide fire support for them so that they can actually disembark, and then continue to support them. And it's designed to be faster and more, and provide better accessibility to urban environments than tanks do.
That's fair.
To that end, it actually does its job well, because it's much smaller than a tank, thus it's also much more lightly armored, and it's faster.
Isn't it taller than the
tank.
Abrams, though?
Yeah, it does have a high profile, but that's because it has to be a troop carrier.
That's true. Like I said, there's
But
a
it's
lot of problems
narrower,
with
which
it.
allows it to get into urban environments that Abrams probably couldn't get into as easily. You don't really want to take a battle tank into a city if you can help it.
This is true. We also have to take into consideration that we also have new vehicles now that basically perform the same role.
And the other part of that is that it's still a far safer alternative than putting troops in Humvees. Humvees are great and all, but they're not armored. They're light transport vehicles.
Yeah, but it can also be argued because it's armored, people focus on it more.
It's because it's bigger and it has a gun.
Exactly.
It's a bigger threat, which is why people focus on it. But it being a threat is a good thing, because people focus on it and not the infantry around it.
That is true. Plus, they did add the,
Rapid speed, man.
they didn't use the SEP program, they basically just gave it reactive armor.
Yeah, which is pretty standard on U.S. vehicles at this point.
Well,
Yeah.
armored vehicles anyway.
We're gonna make a pirate ship. It wasn't originally my idea, but then I thought...
Not armored vehicles.
It would be
other-
pretty fucking
other
hilarious
countries-
to see a Humvee with reactive armor, to be entirely fair.
Yeah, we just scared away all
Well, it would defeat the purpose. It'd be too heavy.
It would be funny, though, to see. Hey guys, check out our new armored fighting vehicle. The Humvee...
It literally focuses out at rapid speed.
The Humvee
Hey,
Derpy.
that's also why they call it a fighting vehicle rather than a tank, because it's not a tank.
True.
that's shaped like that, right? And then you think like the male has to go at a particular angle.
Though I do hear that
And then-
there's a research and development being done to replace the Bradley. Whether that actually goes
I don't-
through or not,
I don't
unlikely.
doubt that. They're light armored vehicles. Their purpose is to be scouts and light transports.
There are some pretty nice scouts out there now.
Yeah, but to be fair, the U.S. doesn't really need land-based scouts that much. We haven't for a long time. When it comes right down to it, the majority of the U.S.'s power comes from its Air Force and its Navy. Whether or not people want to admit it, we're a naval power at this point. Our Navy dwarfs the fuck out of everyone else's Navy, and that's how we exert our power around the world.
That is fairly true.
It's why the Marines are always the first into the fight. You don't hear about the Army engaging in the fight anymore, it's always the Marines.
Okay. It's a legitimate mass disorder.
Because, to be honest, the Army aren't intended for the purpose that the Marines are being used for, which is to launch invasions.
Yeah,
Marines
the
are an
Marines are
offensive
invaders.
Army unit.
The Marines are
The
invaders,
Army is
the
not-
occupational forces are the Army.
Typically.
It looks so much better the
Although
way
that's also not quite accurate to what they were originally designed for, but it's just that's how it's ended up. At least for the United States, because we don't share any land borders with actual threats.
where you want the Randy.
Because I don't think the fucking Maple Leaves or the fucking gringo haters down there are gonna pose much of a military threat to the U.S.
I don't know.
They're either too small or basically barely holding themselves together as a nation.
Well, the problem with Mexico is that if I remember correctly, they use our military equipment,
They do, but they're
like hand-me-downs,
comparatively
basically.
undisciplined and much smaller.
That is true.
And they
highly
lack
corrupt.
the naval, and they lack the naval and air power that we have. They don't.
Yeah. They don't have
do.
the same
No
as we
nation,
do.
no nation can match us on naval power, and no nation can match us in raw air power. Mostly because our navy is a significant part of our air power.
Right. And we did learn mostly from our own mistakes. Did you hear about the war game that this ex-general ended up doing?
Yeah, the Marine general who led Iraq or whatever and
Yeah.
won. Yeah, well, we didn't learn from our mistake because they basically stacked it against him and buried it.
They're watching it here, man. Don't.
Yeah, and he still won twice, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and he was pissed off, and when they continued fucking stacking it against him and tying his hands behind him, he just walked out because it wasn't a fruitful exercise anymore. It was just the U.S. brass patting themselves on the back about all this shiny technology they had that they didn't know how to use.
Yep, and they still don't completely.
Or how about the Swedish, I think, submarine that successfully sank one of our carriers
Need to find some food.
in a war game and
Yeah.
got away
Well, it's all about
because
the thing about these war games that I've always found fucking hilarious is that no matter how technologically advanced something is, until it has the ability to adapt on the fly like a human being, there is no way it's going to be 100% foolproof.
Yeah, they work too far.
Ever.
yeah.
This is all
Like,
too-
oh,
War
we
in
have
general has
this
proven us
massive
that-
aircraft carrier that has 300 American jets on it. Okay, so what happens if someone manages to, let's say, do something crazy? Like, they're adrift at sea, you put them away, they store you on deck, and then they happen to have a bomb on them. And just blow up the hull once they're close enough. Not something you can
that's
really
happened,
think about.
which is why carriers have entire battle groups designated to them. The carrier would never get close enough to a potential threat if it can help it. It would always be one of the escort ships that does that.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's why carrier battle groups are massive. And every other ship is there exclusively to support and protect the carrier, because it's the most important part of the battle group.
Yeah, until a railgun manages to just go straight to it. Which
Yeah,
is
which is
in
why we're
development.
developing them.
Yeah. Well, the problem with emergent technologies like the railgun is once it's known to the universe, everyone else starts building it too.
Yeah, but the railgun is hardly... A Gauss rifle is hardly a new concept.
It's certainly
It's
not.
just the problem is that they're not viable weapons. They're not a viable weapons platform. We don't have the technology to effectively support a weapon like that at all.
Well, we do have nuclear reactors, but
No,
I
we
think we've
don't.
been...
We don't. The problem is that it's a weapon that would only be usable 2, maybe 3 times. It is prohibitively expensive, and it uses a ridiculous amount of power. It's not a viable weapons platform. It's just not. The problem is because our material science hasn't caught up to the point where it is a viable weapons platform. The biggest problem is that the gun can only fire maybe twice, 3 times if you're lucky, before the barrel explodes. Which, fine, if you make it big enough, you would only need 1 or 2 shots, but, you know, the bigger it is, the easier it is to spot and destroy. And these things don't exactly, you know, if you try to assemble something that size, it's a static weapon to begin with, and it's easy to eliminate.
Well, my issue with the idea is that with a railgun, the whole point of it is so that it doesn't have an explosive component to it.
Yeah.
Well, unless you make the projectile explosive.
Yeah.
I think you're just using that to be
accelerating a
artistic.
hunk of... What?
You don't actually mean that it's going to explode, you mean it's going
No,
to
the barrel
damage
will
itself.
explode if you fire it too many times, because there's too much stress on the barrel. It will explode. They've already tested railguns. The problem is that the barrel wears out, and if you try to overuse it, it will explode. Because here's the problem with accelerating a hunk of metal to basically sonic speeds, is it generates a fuckload of heat.
Ah, that's true.
And it causes a ridiculous amount of stress on the materials. You still need a barrel. You still need it to push this thing out.
That is very true. I wasn't thinking of it like that.
It's like, the barrel will explode. That's the problem. So you have to replace the barrel constantly.
Well, there might be ways around it, but I can see where there'd be a problem because it's very expensive to cool something like that and to keep it cool.
No, it's impossible to keep it cool, and if anything, trying to cool it would shock it.
Well, no, what I mean is,
Ow.
like with argon lasers technology, they use a specific gas alongside it to keep the glass that they reflect the lasers.
That's because that's a laser. Lasers don't create friction. That's the problem.
No, but they create extreme heat. So what they do is they use a specific type of gas that hypercools the air around it and keeps it at that temperature. So when that heat does come
which
out,
you can't do. You can't do that with a weapon that has friction, because if you hypercooled it and it suddenly got a jolt of heat, it would crack. That's why it doesn't work in the same way. A laser is, of course, an entirely different concept. If the barrel is already freezing cold and it suddenly gets heated up by hundreds of degrees in an instant, you'll damage it very quickly. Because you'll shock the material and cause it to crack and fracture, which means that it will last even shorter.
So there'd be only a few ways that you could actually make it work, and like you said, it would only be...
The only way you can make it work is to come up with a hyper heat-resistant material that can take this kind of strain. That's the only way of doing it, or to develop basically a magnetic suspension system, which would be prohibitively expensive, because you would need to constantly keep it powered. which would drain ridiculous amounts of energy to generate magnets strong enough to levitate effectively a projectile and then launch it at sonic speeds.
Interesting.
Then there's also the fact that the coils themselves, the magnetic coils, would wear out too, because they're having a absurd amount of power run through them. You know, all of these things are high strain things.
Right.
When it comes down to it, the railgun is a fantastic idea, but it's not something that's going to be feasible until we have better materials to build it out of. We already have everything else. It's the materials that are keeping us from actually employing weapons like this.
And we may not be able to do it with Earth-based materials. We might have to go elsewhere for them.
Which is why they employ lasers more than anything else, because lasers are much easier to build and do the job just fine.
Hey, Himiko, where are you at?
I didn't do anything wrong. Oh, thanks, man.
Did you fall asleep or something?
How many pirates can say they
She's just listening to IGP and being AFK. Or not hearing us.
Well, in either case, from what I'm guessing, like you said, railguns are great, and it works like small scale. You can do it, like you can hyper accelerate a bullet, but something the size of that could take out.
Then there's the other part is people fail to understand that, you know, railguns are great and all, but they still subscribe to the laws of physics. This weapon, if it's using a physical projectile, it's going to have a finite range. And in fact, if you don't create the correct projectile, in this case typically it's a tungsten rod that has some sort of a ferrous metal core, so it can be affected by magnets. If you don't create the projectile correctly, it will disintegrate itself through raw air resistance.
This ship looks amazing.
That's true.
Yeah, holy shit, it looks so good. Alright, but we're gonna cut away real quick.
Like, yeah, railguns are fantastic weapons and all that shit. Sure. But there's not really a reason for them. They don't fill any role that isn't already being satisfied by another weapon system that's existed forever, namely artillery.
So it's basically just an emergent technology that may come about being useful at some point in the future, maybe.
The only advantage to it is that you can basically have cheaper ammunition.
Isn't it also much quieter than a traditional explosive projectile?
Well, yeah, it's quieter, but that doesn't matter when you're shooting something miles away.
That's true. Handheld by a person, that might be a different story.
And the other part of it is that a magnetically accelerated weapon would have better penetration than artillery pieces do. But that's not really their point, and we already have weapons that achieve great penetration that are already airborne weapons. We have bunker busters. We have these big missiles and shit that can dig into the ground and do absurd amounts of damage and destroy bunkers. It's their designed purpose. You don't really need a weapon that's restricted by the horizon to do this. Sure,
well,
you could calculate it and fire it over the horizon, but why do that when you can just shoot a missile at it?
Well, there was this one famous naval officer, I think, during World War II, during the 50s, or something like that, who said, "How much does your missile cost?" And they basically told him the amount. He's like, "Okay, how far can it fire? How much damage can it do?" Etc., etc., etc.
Wouldn't have been World War II. Missiles were a new technology in World War II, and only the Germans had them.
It was around the time that the Iowa was retired. He basically said, okay, so can it do this, 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 and this? Basically saying, you know, the cost of a single 240 millimeter round of a battleship is cheaper does the same job, does the same amount of damage, or even wider amount of damage actually, and you could do it from relative safety just like you can with a missile. Getting rid of that weapons platform makes it more expensive for you to do the same job in certain arenas.
The only advantage that a weapon like this would have would be the same advantage artillery has, and
Yeah,
that's
pretty
really that you can't shoot it down easily.
And it's
There,
cheaper
we don't.
per
No,
round
no,
anyway.
it's not. The ammunition is cheaper. The weapon itself is infinitely more expensive, and maintaining the weapon is more expensive. Standard artillery pieces are pretty low maintenance affairs, honestly.
That's true.
Missile silos are pretty low maintenance affairs, honestly, because the moving part is the weapon itself.
Right, the weapon itself is the part that's expensive. Each time you fire it, you have to replace it.
Yeah, but everything else is basically static, and the tube basically exists to hold the weapon, and the weapon does all the work.
That's fair.
But something like a railgun would constantly have to be maintained, and with the materials we have and that we can foreseeably create in the future, you would have to constantly be replacing, maintaining, and repairing this thing.
Well,
It simply would not be feasible.
don't we have titanium alloys that were created for the Blackbird that can withstand consistent heat?
Yeah, of supersonic flight, which isn't that hot.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe not as hot as a railgun. I don't know
Not
the
compared,
temperatures of that.
not compared
but-
to accelerating a piece of metal to supersonic speed and the friction associated with it.
The Blackbird can actually achieve escape velocity of the atmosphere,
Yeah,
or of the
so can
gravitational.
rockets. We've had materials that can withstand that, but those materials typically also have to be regularly replaced.
That's true. Yes.
You know, look what happened with the fucking space shuttle when one of the heat shield tiles fucking failed because they didn't maintain it. The whole thing exploded.
That's true.
Alright, cool.
That was
Look
the
what
one with the
happened
teacher,
to Challenger
right? The
when one of the
yeah.
O-rings failed because it was too cold. Whole fucker exploded. Now it's when you're dealing with these things, small errors can cause huge problems. You don't want a fucking railgun that can launch fucking fucking meter-long projectiles or meter-wide projectiles, huge fucking pieces of metal, whatever the fuck it is they want to design it for. You don't want that fucker exploding because it wasn't maintained properly.
Hello?
Hey,
If it explodes, it's taking out whatever it happens to be mounted on.
Yeah, that's that. And we go down one more. What was it? Yep, it's just whoa, the shit's flooding! What? You scared the hell? Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. And this is where people go and lock me in. I've been such a bad boy. These are the clips that we start.
I just think it's dumb in the general sense that we have come to a point, technologically speaking, where things are starting to maintain a homeostasis. There's, to a degree, with certain respects. Not everything, obviously. Cell phones are getting smarter and smarter by the day, etc., etc. But we're basically just reinventing the same wheel in a different shell at this point.
No, not really. We're advancing in information technology, but material science can only go so far.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But we are making breakthroughs in material science too. Particularly in the nanoscale,
Oh, the nanotube, carbon nanotubes?
among other things. It's the reason why we don't have a space elevator, because we don't have the materials that could handle that. They would break under their own weight.
I don't think
as
there
soon
would
as we
ever be
did,
such a thing as a space elevator.
Uh-huh.
if we had materials that could be strong and flexible enough and not crush under their own weight, then yes, we could. It wouldn't be all that hard, honestly. Because once you get it into place, it basically supports itself. The problem is getting it to that point.
So what else is there to say, man? It's an amazing ship. We did a damn good job.
It would be the easiest if the Earth just stopped rotating at a certain point, but we don't have the
No.
technology to stop that.
No, it would be harder if the Earth stopped rotating.
Gravity would reverse itself. Or so
No,
people
gravity
like
would
to
cease
tell
to.
you.
Gravity wouldn't reverse itself, but a lot of problems would come as a result of it. Part of the reason why a space elevator works is because of the rotation of the planet. It takes a lot of the weight off the top of that fucker, because it puts it into a fucking spin, which means that it's arguably weightless because the weight is being directed a different direction
Centrifugal
rather than
force.
down. Yeah, that's why a space elevator works in concept, because the weight isn't all pushing straight down. If it was all pushing straight down, it would be impossible no matter what you did. There would be no material that we can conceive of that would be strong enough to handle that sort of weight.
Yeah! We did it!
And when it comes right down to it, if we want to continue our space programs, we need a cheaper way of getting material into orbit. And the cheapest way is a space elevator. The next cheapest way is to build a slingshot.
Slingshot. That's true.
Yeah, I think I'm kidding, but
No, it's been a developmental
well, a
thing.
slingshot is not the correct term. A catapult is more accurate, which is basically a large railgun designed to accelerate shit into orbit.
Down in the description below. Now, I'm not going to go over too much of the detail. It's basically a Jurassic
And
Park.
again, building it would be the easy part. Maintaining it would be hard.
Jurassic Park building game. I can't remember the name of
It would significantly reduce the cost of putting material into orbit, but typically you could only put non-living material into orbit that way, and you would have to maintain the hell out of it.
a tutorial island.
If we actually had a more permanent space presence, it would be a good alternative to resupplying that wouldn't require launching shuttle missions, which are very expensive.
The dead, which has
But you would have to balance its maintenance cost versus the cost of shuttle missions.
myself and pretty much all the basics. But I'm still going to be learning and discovering new dinosaurs along the way. So if you guys would like to see more on the channel, be sure to let me know in the comment section below. And let's just jump right into it.
At least people talking about fucking we're gonna be to Mars in the next decade or so. Load of shit. No way.
Storms, extreme weather, that kind of thing from time to time. As you can see,
If we don't figure out how to get off of this planet in relatively short order, we're not gonna have much more to worry about.
Collect letters to spell gunner? How do you even do that?
oh, and don't forget to close any emergency shelters when it's safe to do so. Pests won't spread
We start with G,
Yeah, I'm
U,
aware.
N, then
No, it's in
M.
the events thing for this game.
to bad behavior from the dinosaurs.
You have a keyboard. It's got all the letters you need right there.
Butterfly effect. And I do believe it, by the way.
Dick.
Then one
Okay, so
small
let's see
change
here.
made a series of toppling dominoes leading to rampaging
I guess I'll do
dinosaurs.
that. Teleport me to Reanimaniacs. It's actually kind of a cool name.
There you have it. Good old Jeff Goldblum.
Must be like a undead version of Yakko, Wacko, and Dot, right?
We got it. Okay, so we got
I
two
hope
Halo lab creations already set up. Right now our ranger team is fixing it up. As you can see, I did kind of dip my toes into this island just at least at the beginning, so I knew what I needed
Focus on
to do
duty,
in order
not
to fix
ambition.
everything. I think the alarm's still on. Yeah, let's turn off the alarm. We're good. There's nobody in there anyway. I don't know why people are panicking. So we got 2 mil in the bank.
We're
zero
gonna be
stars and
Reanimaniacs and
nothing.
we're zany to the
Reset and
max.
Move on to the next island. So we got to make sure we have everything we need to start with. The storm is actually kind of crazy. But also, I just wanted to say that I want this to be kind of an adventure for myself and you. I'm relatively relatively new to understanding dinosaurs. I can barely pronounce a lot of the names, so I'm going to need your help with that as
Do you
well.
sense
But
the power
I kind of want
around
to progress
us?
through this game and unlock things as an adventurer with you guys. If you guys are more interested in just seeing all the dinosaurs that you can collect, because you can unlock a healthy amount of different types of dinosaurs. Right now I just have these 5.
Unlock all the dinosaurs.
But there's 42, I think, or something like that, and there's a secret one, which I'm going to spoil for you real quick. If you don't want to hear it, you have plenty of time right now to click
Victory
away
for
and
Valkyrie.
not listen to a word I say. It's the Indominus Rex. I think it's like once you unlock everything, you have to do something crazy in order to unlock it. I don't know what it is. But if you want to see all of those dinosaurs and you want to see a more sandbox kind of experience with someone who has everything, there are definitely
There's another movie that annoys me and is amazingly stupid, Jurassic World.
Never watched it.
Well,
Probably
it's
for
dumb
the
for the
best.
very concept of the reason why it all fell apart was because why not genetic engineer? Let's just create a super animal that's smart and apparently has the cloaking technology from Predator.
Seems real. Seems like something science would
Seems
do.
really stupid.
For you to be able to unlock everything, there are permanent things, like right now I have electric fences, which you don't have.
Let's create a super predator that can actually outsmart us and kill us. That seems like a brilliant thing to do. Idiots.
It's a strange way they're approaching. I wanted to see a little bit more sandbox in the game, but it's not something that's
Ooh,
game
ow.
breaking for me.
Ow.
Anyway, enough talking. Let's go ahead and do what we need to do. I'm gonna go ahead and incubate because right now we are at a profit loss.
I just love that
We need to get some dinos in here. So let's
fucking retards are blaming Solo's failure, not on it being a bad movie,
dinosaurs to make them
honestly,
a little bit more vital.
because of fan fatigue or, oh my god, such a toxic fan base. Oh, they're so toxic. They don't like Solo, and they don't like that fucking Asian actress who had no fucking point in that goddamn movie.
Viability is always dropped
Yep.
by at least 1% each time you modify.
Oh, they don't like her because we fucking forced her down your throat because she's a minority actress, and that's the only reason why she's in the movie. And she has no redeeming characteristics and no reason to exist in the movie. And as a Mary Sue, because they can't think of any other ways to fucking make these characters but to make them fucking impossibly competent.
Creation of this dinosaur. So I'm at 78% viability. It will go down as I
Because storytelling is a fucking dead and lost art at this point.
Resilience, although I don't think that's necessary right now, but I think we're good with what we got. And it increases rating up, which for me, this game is all about the park and entertaining the good people, right? We want the people.
I don't exactly agree with people harassing her on Twitter, if it can be considered harassment, because frankly I know what harassment these days is considered. It's fucking goddamn. It's fucking yard, fucking school grade insults. It's stupid.
You're
Harassing
dumb.
me. Yeah, you're fucking pussies.
Now we need to make sure we focus. We got 2 mil in the bank, but
That shit really gets under your skin, and you don't deserve to succeed.
Welcome back, Himiko.
Hey, you exist.
Yeah, I've been here.
So you have, apparently, allegedly. You haven't been saying anything.
No, because you two were rambling.
Yeah, bite me.
That can be arranged.
No, it can't.
Oh wow, is that the different pattern? Okay, maybe I should pay attention to that. See this guy. Beautiful. First things first, since we don't have anything.
You should totally buy that game so I can steal it from you for a change.
I can't afford it.
What game is that?
Jurassic World Evolution.
Oh god.
It's a neat game.
No, it's a part
It's
of the
giving
game.
money to people who have zero brain.
Well, no.
In a non-creative way.
honest.
The game is good.
The people who made that game are more creative than the people who made that movie.
Yeah, but the people who
Yeah.
made the movie are getting royalties from said game.
Yeah.
And therefore, you're feeding into the stupidity.
Whatever.
Yeah, well, it's not any better than what Star Wars is doing. I'll take fucking
I'll
100
give you
Jurassic
that.
Worlds over these last few Star Wars movies.
The only one that was actually competent, like I said, was the Rogue One movie. And that was
Yeah, Rogue
barely
One was the only
competent.
Rogue One was the only one that was even remotely good, and it was good because it told a decent story that didn't annihilate the fucking lore while it was at it. Although it did insert some very interesting caveats into the lore, but whatever. At least they made sense.
For Honors 1750.
Too expensive. That's 1750 for the deluxe edition.
Yeah.
The deluxe edition of an online-only game that I'm pretty sure nobody plays anymore.
I think there are
I'll
some
admit.
people who play it, but they're waiting for Honor 2.
I mean, I'll admit, it's a fun game, but that's all I can say about it is it's fun.
Yeah, it's a not a reimagining, but it's a different version of a fighting game.
Well, it's just an
Ouch.
action fighting game. That's all it is.
Gentlemen, behold what happens when you decide to mix Dynasty Warriors with Mortal Kombat.
No. Not quite.
It's not quite that, I know,
It's-
but I mean, it's the two types of genre merged together.
It's Gentlemen Behold when you turn fucking... I can't remember what the hell that... There was a couple of these old samurai games that were very...
Samurai Showdown.
No, it's not it. Well, maybe not it. They were much more tactical in their gameplay. You could die in one hit if the enemy hit you in the right way. Every weapon had its way
Wow.
of fighting. You had 3 different stances you can choose from, basically high, medium, low, and certain numbers of attacks. It's basically that, but 3D with more people.
What game I would like for them to return to the
I
forefront
still forget the name of it.
is Kessen. I really loved the Kessen games. Because in Kessen 2, they really made you feel like you were the leader of your faction.
Well, don't you worry. It'll come back and it'll be open world, I'm sure. Dynasty Warriors 9, Kessen Edition.
No thank you, just give me Kessen, please.
And even Fallout's going fucking open
Survival.
world now. A survival open world. But that actually doesn't look stupid yet.
It looks like it might be
Bethesda's very
fun,
good
but-
at Bethesda's very good at hyping up fanboys. They've got that same thing that fucking Square Enix has going for it.
The new Assassin's Creed looks interesting to me.
Yes, Assassin's
But it-
Creed.
it
Why
is
is that
like-
still a fucking thing?
I feel like that
That
would have
was
been a better
fucking-
game if it was by itself and not an Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah, that's the problem. It has that name tagged onto it, which immediately elicits groans of frustration because it's the, what, 9th installment of that fucking game? It's starting to rival fucking Madden.
Well, it's nowhere near as bad as Call of Duty.
No, it's actually worse than Call of Duty. Call of Duty actually takes a break every once in a while and doesn't do it every fucking year.
No, they do.
They're
do it every
trying
year.
to, but they don't.
No, there's been a Call of Duty every year since Call of Duty 3.
Still doesn't match quite up to fucking
Madden?
Ubisoft's nonsense. Nothing matches Madden. Madden was the fucking prototype of that bullshit.
This is true. Well, actually, there is one thing that matches Madden. Mario games.
Forza.
Nope.
Fucking...
Mario games. There's been every Mario game every year since 1989.
Yeah, well, Mario is fucking Mario. You really can't... You can't compare him to anything.
In some years, there were 3.
Yeah. And they're all different games. And they're all very annoying.
I'll give you that.
That's just Nintendo being Nintendo. They have the resources to do it, so they'll do it. Nintendo likes doing things for the sake of doing things.
Yeah, but that's one thing why people like Nintendo. You never know what they're actually going to come up with, except for recently, where they're coming up with Donkey Kong, Super Mario, and Rabbids all mixed into one.
Yeah.
It's like, can we just get, you know, a Mario game and a Donkey Kong Country game?
We're not going to see another Mario game for a long time because they made Mario Maker. And that's still printing gold for them.
Oh, you create your own Super Mario level or whatever?
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty fucking cool that they did that, but yeah.
It was a great idea, but that great idea is going to be something that they're going to lean on for a while. They do this.
That's true. Same thing with Sony and their PSP after 15 years.
Well, in Sony's case, it's more of because the PSP is successful in Japan, and Sony is a Japanese company after all. We don't realize that it's successful in Japan because no one ever talks about it, but it is very successful in Japan.
It's extremely successful in Japan.
Doesn't it have, like, just as many titles as the PlayStation 2 at this point? Just for itself?
Yeah.
Because it's much more successful. It's just that Japanese market is better suited to handhelds, which is why Nintendo went the way they did with the Switch.
Uh-huh.
Because they're trying to tap into that handheld market. And while they already had a strong contender in the Nintendo DS, they wanted more.
Well, it's because 3DS doesn't have very good graphics, whereas the Switch has really awesome graphics.
Well, yeah. They're trying to hit 2 markets at once. And they're succeeding, more or less.
Well, they're going to succeed because they canceled Pokemon for the 3DS. It's now Switch.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, tell me about it, because now I gotta find a way to hack my Switch.
People with your fucking Switches. I'm just gonna stick with my PS4. And the correct gaming console, the PC.
To the correct gaming console. The original gaming console, you mean?
No.
No, it wasn't.
Nintendo was the original. No, Atari.
No. Yeah, it was Atari. I don't remember what the fuck it was called.
No, there was something came out before the Atari. I forget what it was called.
ColecoVision.
No, there was one before that too.
Yeah,
it was a keyboard that you put a cartridge in.
Yeah, the ColecoVision.
It wasn't ColecoVision.
Ow.
USAF. Join the Air Force. Do nothing.
See the world! And do nothing in it.
The Air Force doesn't see the world, they see the world through their TV screen.
I guess that's true, yeah.
We don't really have Air Force bases outside the U.S.
I thought we had one in Japan.
Probably, but at that point it's probably just a military base that just happens to have Air Force elements in it. We really don't have any large-scale Air Force bases outside the U.S. Not that still operate.
Alright, 4 more and then I can leave this place.
You probably only get to see the world as an Air Force pilot if you were a transport pilot. Do that heavy lift all around the world. To my understanding, the Air Force kind of moves itself around as needed, because it's very mobile if nothing else. Besides, if I wanted to be more likely to fly aircraft, I'd just join the Navy.
One more.
So a bunch of Battlefield games are on sale, and I decided why not.
Battlefield 1942 OG.
So what?
Battlefield 1942. If you can find a copy of that, you'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun a long time ago. I mean, getting a hold of it is not exactly hard, because you can find them all over online, and they are very heavily modded.
This is true.
But there was Battlefield 4, Battlefield Hardline, God why, and Battlefield 1. All on sale with all their DLC and season passes for $40.
I was debating getting the season pass, since I don't have it.
Well, I have it now. Boo, yeah.
I'm sure I could steal it.
I don't think that quite works with season passes. Besides, remember this is an EA game.
Yeah,
True.
if they catch you, they'll ban you permanently.
Well, no, they tend to account lock these things. Like Battlefront 2 was originally not, like, they don't have to ban you, they just make it so that it can't be used on other accounts, just the primary account that purchased it. Which is very easy to do, because they just turn off console sharing. Because Battlefront 2 used to have console sharing, and it didn't. That's why I deleted it originally.
Battlefield 2, you say?
Battlefront 2.
No, Battlefront.
There was never a Battlefield 2, technically.
No, there was Battlefield 2. They did make it.
No, there was never a Battlefield 2.
Yeah, I have the box, man. It says Battlefield 2 on it.
That is a lie, because it is not number 2.
No, that would be Battlefield 1943.
Battlefield Vietnam, actually.
Was it Vietnam before 43?
Yes. It's 42, Vietnam, then 43, and I think 45 came out after that.
Helping others is a delight. Farewell. Victory for Valkion.
Let's do Battlefield 1942. That was actually a really fun game with the secret weapons over Normandy expansion.
Maybe I should buy totally accurate Battle Royale.
Totally. Oh god.
But you didn't realize that was a thing?
No, I know it was a thing. Just, god, why?
Well, why not? Better than PUBG at this point.
Yeah, anything's better than PUBG at this point, and everything's getting a Battle Royale mode, because it's the flavor of the month now.
I mean, at least they're not all fucking survival games. Bethesda's just behind the curve for some strange reason. But I'd much rather have Fallout 76 than Fallout Battle Royale.
That's a valid point.
Honestly, I don't think it's so much that Bethesda's behind the curve as that they probably are not that stupid and realize that a Fallout Battle Royale would be fucking retarded.
Well,
At least I hope that's the case.
if you think about it, Fallout was the reason why people enjoyed the idea of the survival genre. It gave people that spark of idea. Maybe we should make something that's a true survival game, see if it's fun.
It's why the original Fallout was called the post-apocalyptic survival RPG.
Mm-hmm.
Although even it didn't really fully explore the survival aspect, because frankly, that's not really fun gameplay in most cases.
No, it's actually kind of boring to constantly have to worry about your fucking food and water. Especially considering the fact that it's not like a once-a-day thing, it's... Ugh.
Well, especially considering at the rate at which characters fucking get hungry and thirsty, which is unrealistically fast.
Every 20 minutes.
Yeah, human beings can go longer than that without having to eat.
They can go up to 2 days without actually eating, but it's better to eat.
Yeah, you can go up 3 days actually before it starts being a serious problem. It'll start affecting you negatively at 2 days. And, well, actually it'll go a lot longer than that because very few people die of hunger. Typically it's dehydration that kills you first.
That's true, you can survive without food much longer than water.
Like 3 weeks without food, you'll be fine. Of course, if you go for 3 weeks without food and survive, you're going to be in such bad shape that you probably won't survive any longer.
Unless you happen to be like fucking 2-ton Sam or something.
Even then, you would still be very weak because your body would be lacking a lot of the essential minerals and vitamins and shit you should be intaking on a regular basis. You'll just have calories, which will allow you to still have energy and move, but that's about it.
Good thing we live in a place with a lot of berries.
The more weight you have, the more calories it burns to carry it around, so you'd probably still only go for a few more days.
A few more days or a few weeks, at most.
3 weeks is pretty much the limit for human beings. But you'll die in a week without water. If you're lucky, you'll die in a week without water.
Yeah.
Most people don't last that long, honestly.
No, a lot of people last a week without water, and they die.
Yep.
There are things that will accelerate it, like if you happen to be sweating profusely, you'll dehydrate faster. But there are so many survival myths that are hilarious.
My research never ends.
You have a tongue, right?
Yep.
If you get caught out somewhere
You
and you
need
have
my
to
help?
survive, what is the first thing you should do?
Find water.
Nope.
Shelter.
Not quite correct. That's closer, but not quite right. First thing you need to do is you need to... Shelter is part of it, but that's not enough. Just having
Well,
something out
fire.
of... No.
You need to make a fire.
No, you don't.
That is actually very important.
No, you don't. That should not be your first priority. Your first priority should be getting something over your head, but that's not even the highest priority. The bigger priority is making a raised bed. Getting off the ground.
I'll give you that.
Because people don't realize that you lose a ridiculous amount of body heat when you're sleeping. Especially if you're sleeping on the bare ground, because the ground gets very cold very fast. And it'll sap a lot of your heat without you realizing it.
That's true.
Unless you live in a climate where it's warm all the time anyway. Or you're surviving in a warm climate.
Even then, that's not... You'll still lose a lot of heat at night. It's... And the fact that being on the ground also exposes you to shit that crawls on the ground.
That's true. Scorpions would suck, and those are usually in the warmer environments.
Scorpion, snakes, all sorts of bugs, ants, and bullshit like that.
Yeah, scorpions suck. Like, big time suck.
Well, deterring those bugs is usually not that hard, though.
You'd be surprised on how, fucking aggressive those things are.
Well, that's when they spot you, but then what I mean by deterring them is just give them some other direction to go. Like, typically one of the ways to deter snakes is to lay down a rope or something and create a perimeter. When they run into the perimeter, they'll just go some other way, because climbing over it takes more effort. Unless they have a reason to climb over it, they won't. Insects typically do the same thing. When presented with a tall barrier, they'll usually just go around it, even if they can just go right over it.
That's a valid point.
So if you give them an obstacle that they have to overcome, you can deter most of them from trying to get to you. Scorpions are super aggressive when they realize that you're there.
Which is usually once you start
super
moving.
aggressive as... Yeah, but they're super aggressive as a defense mechanism.
Yep. If they know you're there initially, they won't go anywhere near you.
Yeah. It's when you startle them, then they get defensive, and then they start attacking you, because that's the best way they can protect themselves that they know of.
I'm gonna go give this thing back to the people.
is this download taking even longer?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I got the letter G so far for Gunner. Still don't know what it does once you collect them all. Aside from Spell Gunner.
My
The
research.
gunner comes from
never
Fallout
ends.
4 and fucking murders you. Everybody's playing XCOM 2.
Yeah, Jack, I did.
All you
Because
people
it was
playing
free.
Yeah, and I already own it and everything
I
on
know.
the correct gaming console.
The PC.
I know.
Yes.
I knew you were a PC Master Race type person.
Oh yeah. The only correct console.
Healer, where are you?
Bueller. Bueller.
Seriously.
Bueller.
Of course.
I'm sitting here looking at the fucking PlayStation 4 desktop. That's where I'm at. I don't know why you're asking for me. Upgrade the storage on this fucking PS4. It is distinctly insufficient.
Of course.
Fucking games like Star Wars Battlefront 2 take up a full fifth of the storage all on their own.
Yeah. Well, at least it's no Gears of War 4. 5, whatever it was.
What is that piece of shit?
Hey, you want to know how much it... How much storage?
125 gigs
Yeah.
at minimum.
Fucking why?
Because they didn't bother streamlining their coding.
And they didn't bother compressing any of their textures in any sort of reasonable way.
Hey, we got a 500 gig storage device. We can afford to not do anything with it. Except take up space. Hey guys, it's been 6 months, but we came up with a patch for the game that reduced it from 100 gigs down to 80.
It's fantastic. It's still too fucking big, dickheads.
Are you kidding? They're still trying to sell Battlefront 1 for $30.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fucking hilarious.
Well, that's cute. My fucking PS4 system software fucked up and had to restart, but apparently that didn't stop me from staying on the party, unlike a random small network error which immediately boots her from the fucking party.
Yeah.
Piece of shit. You know, part of the reason why these games take up so much fucking space is because all these people thought, oh well, we can just fucking release updates and shit. And, this shit can be all finished later. We don't need to streamline shit. We don't have to pack it into a limited space of a fucking DVD and just fucking unload it onto the console's hard drive. Which is, of course, why fucking discs have to install, which still pisses me off. And the installation is not any smaller. Not like it was originally, where you could opt to install some files onto the fucking hard drive to speed up loading times. Well, bullshit's fucking mandatory now. It's fucking stupid. It doesn't even help loading times either. Even if I had a fucking terabyte on this thing, I would fill it up in no time flat.
Yeah, I'm constantly full with my terabyte. And I don't really have that many games on here either.
How many do you
Surprisingly.
have?
Let's see.
I would say about 13.
Well, it also doesn't help that the system, in spite of having a terabyte or a 500 gigabyte hard drive, takes up a full quarter, or takes up 20% of it for system files that you simply can't ever not have.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they don't tell you this, and they don't build these hard drives with that in mind. It's like, you lose fucking 20% of your hard drive to necessary files that you can never get rid of, and will only get bigger as time goes on.
Battlefront 2 is 90 gigs.
It's more than 90 gigs. It's 100 gigs.
89.93.
Yeah. And then there's a 15 gigabyte fucking update.
Yeah, you have to keep at least 15 gigs free for that thing to be able to update itself.
No, more than that. It's like 40 or 50.
It's because of how PS4 fucking works. You need to have an absurd amount more than it actually needs.
I have Tera, which is 50 gigs just about.
Of course, I love that Battlefront 2 in the store page says it only takes up about 50 gigs. In reality, it takes up nearly twice that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Fortnite.
they haven't given enough of a shit to update it.
Armored Warfare, Persona 5, Cross to Fate, Ruby, Detroit Become Human, Infamous First Light, Uno, Friday the 13th.
A funny, fascinating thing about these games and the sizes that they take up is typically Western developed games take up stupid amounts of space. And pretty much only them. Every fucking Japanese game I have doesn't take up that much space.
It's because
the fucking
there's a
biggest
few
one is
reasons
Monster
for that.
Hunter World. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons for that.
Laziness being part of it. So
I
why
also
is
like how
this
I'm
game
looking
so
at my
big? Oh, well,
application.
because we have this. Yeah, that only takes up like 20 megabytes. Well, we have this, and this. That's 2 gigs. What about this, and this? That's 4 gigs. Why is there 20 additional gigs of all of this other shit? Well, we need to be able to upgrade. No. Good excuse. Doesn't work.
So I like how on my applications list I have all this stuff, and at the very bottom, inaccessible, I have other. And apparently other takes up 41.67 gigs, and I have no idea what the fuck it is.
Mine says 3.95.
Those would be save games and screenshots.
No. Because
Yep.
those show up. No, because those show up in separate tabs, and I have about 6 gigs of those. I can see them. I can delete them. I can't delete this other tab, whatever the fuck it is. Or even see what it is.
You need my help?
Probably
Save
junk
data
files.
and... Yeah, that I have no idea how to get rid of.
By factory restoring your console, probably.
Oh, Jesus Christ, I don't want to do that bullshit.
I'm sure there's another way.
There's no formatting of your hard drive. Well, you could probably format your hard drive, but I just don't know if that's what would be necessary to do it.
I'm sure there's another way. Just have to look up on Google.
You could probably connect it to your computer somehow. Not sure how that'll work out.
The files are incompatible.
God damn it. Oh boy. So, what level was your sorcerer, Himiko?
30 something.
Because I'm at 38 right now.
You're higher level than me.
Okay. I'll stop here and wait for you to catch up. Well, I have to kill this last boss, and then I can. No. I've never had this much trouble. Oh god damn it. He just reset him.
tons to a little over 65 tons. Now, this doesn't seem like too much in the realm of super heavy vehicles, but this thing failed as a Tiger prototype due to its engines being overstressed by weight already. By adding all that tonnage on, you're just asking for more problems. Once it was all said and done, about 90 Ferdinands had been created, along with one command tank that sported potential turret like the original prototype, and a couple recovery units. The vehicles were assigned to Tank Destroyer Battalions 653 and 654.
That's loud.
Is it, man?
Yeah, it's louder than my game.
Their performance, though, was about as you could expect, with many vehicles destroyed.
La-di-da, it's loud.
Damn. Stretchy stretch. Alright. Will you get on today, Himiko? Or are you taking a break?
No. I'm not gonna be getting on tonight. I have to go to bed in like a handful of hours.
You have to do what now?
I have to go to bed in a handful of hours. I gotta take the trash out somehow. I gotta clean up. I gotta eat again. And then I gotta go to bed.
Wait, I thought with surgeries like this, you shouldn't eat.
I gotta eat before that time frame comes up. I can't eat after 12 o'clock.
Midnight or afternoon?
Midnight.
Well, have fun with that.
Yeah. A lot of the surgeries I had usually is 24 hours beforehand.
Yeah, because I have to be at the hospital at 8:30. Which fucking sucks. But early is good.